How we feeling, bro?
I'm good, man. I'm good. It's what are we? Thursday today. Big
Yeah,
week. So
yeah.
tourney started today.
Tourney started today, man. I saw
So
Kentucky got upset.
that's a perfect segue. We're actually picking up where we left off. Our special guest is none other than our host himself, Alex Harris. And picking up where we left off, jumping into his college career.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
think,
Let's take the folks through the college years, share
yeah,
with you some of at least what it's like to be a student athlete at Santa Barbara, the Big West Conference, and I'll share a lot about that time period. I feel like my game had a big change at that
yeah.
period of my life. Yeah.
Um, how did you end up there? So the last time we spoke on the show, we talked about your senior year, finishing up at St. Joe's with a state championship,
Mhm.
and some big things to come in terms of having your number and jersey retired out there.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, all of those things culminated into your next step. And what was that?
Yeah, man. So I'll talk about, as a high school athlete being recruited and being in position to earn a free ride, a scholarship to play Division 1. You have the opportunity to take 5 school visits. So most of the folks that have probably found the show by now know that much. But for those that don't, you can visit 5 schools on the school's dime. They pay for the travel. Normally, they bring out your parents with you as well, family members, and cover your whole stay. And you get 48 hours on a campus to kind of show you, entice you what you would be receiving if you decide to attend that school. I took 2 out of my 5 visits. My first visit was to Yale, who, congratulations, they just won the Ivy League conference and they will be in the NCAA tournament this year. But I took my first visit to Yale. Great school, a lot of history, good basketball program, great coach who's there now, Coach Jones, and just earned himself a title. He's obviously been there a long time, as a minute ago when I was a senior. And took that visit with a good buddy of mine, Eric Flato, who was the first guest on this show.
Hmm.
And, no knocks on that experience, but my main takeaways were I felt that the Ivy League was not a conference where I might be finding myself in a position to be playing in front of a lot of NBA scouts. And the other was that the Ivy League does not give athletic scholarships.
Mm.
So I realized I was in a position and had put in enough work to go to school for free, but wouldn't have that opportunity had I chose Yale. So those are a couple of major knocks for them in my eyes.
Yeah.
And then them being in New Haven, Connecticut, and then my second visit being to UC Santa Barbara. Boy, you talk
Can I?
about a night and day experience.
Yeah. Can I interject? That's interesting that you said that about the exposure. Just a like unique anecdote is you're more likely to graduate Harvard and become a U.S. president than you are to go to the NBA.
How wild is
Yeah.
that? They produce way more presidents than NBA basketball player. Way more, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Apparently.
What's
So you
crazy
talk
too
about
is like
exposure. Yeah.
it's crazy too looking back, like the ego, not ego, but let's say self-confidence that I had as a 17, 18-year-old kid to be like, to really be able to look myself in the mirror and confidently say, I would rather play pro basketball than have a career in politics or, become a superstar lawyer or lead a hedge fund. I just knew even that early on, without even understanding what those things were, that the for me, the opportunity to have a chance to be a pro athlete was far more valuable than, maybe having some of
Right.
that clout graduating school. It was very interesting. I remember I
Yeah.
took my visit to UC Santa Barbara, and on that visit, some random student that I met and was just chopping it up with, I told him I had just looked at Yale. He's like, "You got to go to Yale. What are you doing?" He's like looking at me like I was crazy. And I was thinking, like, dog, look around. Are you crazy? Like, I'm going to Santa Barbara.
Yeah.
So anyway, ended up taking that next visit to UCSB. I committed in the early period of my senior year in high school, knew where I
That's
was
right.
going my whole last season. And
Because you had injury, right? You had suffered an injury.
yeah, big motivation in choosing to select the school early was that summer. I went up for a dunk and got undercut, landed very badly on my wrist and sprained my right wrist. The first doctor that we spoke to told me that it was fractured and that I wouldn't play anymore, or that I'd have to have surgery and maybe miss my whole senior year. So I thought it was over. I thought there goes my Scally. I was getting recruited heavily at the time. We
Yeah.
were favorites to maybe have a run at state championship, and it was like my life flashed before my eyes. And I kind of, the next couple of weeks was like, man, it doesn't hurt that bad. Like, it doesn't
Mm.
feel like, I've never broken a bone at that point, but I was just like, it doesn't feel like what I imagine a broken wrist would feel like. It was feeling like it was getting better. We went to a different doctor, and sure enough, he said he thought it was just a severe sprain and not a break. And so, just like that, my season's back on, like recruiting back on, right? Just like that. But the fear was instilled. It was like, dude,
Right, right, right.
I'm one undercut away from losing everything. I better
Yeah.
find a school yesterday.
And you
And
never had to think about it until that happened.
right, exactly. You're
Yeah.
not ever thinking in that mindset.
Mhm.
And I had a pretty good feeling I was going to have a huge senior year. Was killing on the summer circuit, was playing outstanding, confidence was at an all-time high. I'm a senior now, big dog on campus. So I was feeling really good about this year. And then that incident made me say, oh, shoot, wait a minute. Like, things don't always go perfectly, and kind of reassess. So I made the decision to commit early. And UC Santa Barbara was a vibe, man. As soon as I touched down, got along with my teammates. It was 20 degrees warmer than it was in New Haven, Connecticut. Everybody's in beach attire. Arena was nice. I was close enough to home for my parents to come to most of the games.
Right.
Done deal, canceled my other 3 visits. Yeah, it was a vibe.
What was the relationship with the coach?
Yeah, the coach had come to see me play quite a bit in the summer. I was on the same AAU team as Eric Flata. And I think originally they were high on Eric Flata. They really wanted to try to entice him to come to UC Santa Barbara. And then as Eric and I got super close, we decided that we wanted to go to the same school. We started putting fillers out there, letting people know that. And UCSB was like, oh yeah, we'll take them both. So I actually have to thank Eric for that. Was that I got onto their radar because of Eric mostly. And so they started to recruit heavily, got very close with Bob Williams, who was a coach there. And, he eventually tried to get both of us to come down there. And Eric decided he wanted to go to Yale. I decided I wanted to go there. So it was a nice little flip flop. But coach was a really, really good dude. He had been a seasoned coach, and they were coming off a conference championship as I was entering the school, maybe 2 years prior. So I knew I was going to have the opportunity to play at a high level.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Did you went down early? I mean, normally athletes do. What was your like initial acclimation, like your freshman year?
Yeah, we're supposed to be down there, before the school year starts. And I actually was so high on hoop and just ready to start my college career that I went down a month before I was even supposed to be there. I just jumped in some of the players' apartments, slept on the couch. I wanted to work out and get ready and have a monster freshman season.
Yeah.
And so I was down there working out quite a bit. One of the first things I realized was that my work ethic was like extremely high. I came in like, all I want to do is shoot, train, lift, jump. I was not trying to have a balanced college experience. I was there on a mission. And I realized that not all players approach the game that way. And that was kind of a shock to me. I thought, like, after high school, I thought everybody that hoops now takes it as seriously as I do, and wanted to like go hard and be a pro. And that was not my experience when I first got there. Everybody had a very balanced life. Some of the guys were, everybody worked really hard, but guys weren't sneaking into the gym at night and lifting early, things that I kind of had been doing from jump. So that was an interesting revelation. And then my freshman year, I got off to a really good start, made the all freshman team. We had a tough season, but I got a lot of minutes. I think I started as a freshman eventually after the first few games. My very first
playing
game,
the 2, starting at the 2?
I was starting at the point, not the point. So I didn't start in the beginning. I was coming in off the bench and playing 1 and 2. My very first game, I think I had 15 points, which was at the time a freshman first game record at SB. And so I was like a scoring point. I was playing some point, and then they would, move me to some 2 a little bit. And it was kind of like a true definition of a combo guard. They're like, he's not really a point, he's not really a 2. But I had a good season. There were some injuries on the team, so I got to play more than I think even expected, and really got to have the ball in my hands a bit, which was nice, because I do think if I ended up going to a high major D1 out of high school, I might not have gotten that court time as a freshman, or that experience, or been thrown into the fire. So in hindsight, I was grateful that I did that, and that's something that I pass on to the younger guys. Is like, to be at an amazing school and not touch the court is not doing that much for you. So, if now the guys are a lot better about taking their college career into their own hands.
Yeah.
But I would highly recommend that guys, really ask those questions. Will I have the opportunity to play? Are you thinking that it's going to be a year or two before I get to rock?
Right. I mean, I've heard that, all of the kind of success stories that we've seen from mid majors into the NBA, like Ja, Dame,
Mhm.
um, I think Kuz. I think they said like go to a place where you're gonna play, like,
Yeah, man.
um, because not all programs are built for a per you,
Yep.
but you can build a program around yourself.
Yeah, I learned that the hard way in high school too, right? I think on, the first version of this story we did, I was telling everybody that I played freshman and then JV. And, it was an extreme disadvantage in my eyes. And on the national recruiting scale, it was as well. But where it was a positive was I probably played the entire game, start to
Mm,
finish, every single year for those first 2 years. So I'm used to taking a big shot. I'm used to having a rock in my hand in pressure situations. And even if it's on a little bit of a smaller stage, that moment is still big, right? So I think coming in and playing as a freshman, I felt like I was ready. I didn't feel scared at all. I didn't feel nervous. I felt like, yeah, time for me to show what's up. And like, my numbers were not overwhelming, but for a freshman, I think I definitely had some really big games and showed some key moments that I could do something special. So
yeah.
yeah, it was
Did you
good.
have because when I was a senior and I made it a point to take the freshman under my wings, did you have a guy that kind of took you under his wing and showed you the ropes?
Yeah, it's interesting because, right, once you get to college, you really start to understand too, like these are your teammates and your boys, but they're also your competition, right?
Mm,
Which is like, it's almost like an early introduction into the pro game where, you hope that there's going to be a good chemistry on the team. You hope you get along with guys and that you can vibe out. But anybody playing the, 1 through 3 position is also my competition. I hate to say it, right? So I didn't quote unquote have somebody telling me like, man, think about it like this, do it like that. But I did have guys that were really good and wanted to see me succeed, and I could kind of follow along. One of them was Chrisman Oliver, who started out at UC Santa Barbara as a walk-on, and then earned his scholarship just by how well he was playing and how hard he was working. And that was super impressive to me. It was like he seemed, hungrier and like he was taking the game more seriously than guys that didn't have, that were scholarships coming in.
right, right.
So I was always very impressed by him, and he conducted himself really well. We were close. And then I was roommates with Cecil Brown, who was a legend in high school coming out of LA area. I believe the same high school as Gilbert Arenas and Nick Young. So some prodigies, scorer, tough nosed player. And we had really different personalities. He was very much more grit. I was a little bit more like smooth out there in terms of just my approach to the game, but he was dominant. He could score. He had everybody's respect, and that rubbed off on me too. Like I really liked the idea that if you're gonna play, be great,
Mm,
and really like leave the court having everybody saying that guy's a problem. I really like
yeah,
that. But it was a joy to play with all these guys, man, and I'm still close to almost everybody I played with at UCSB as well.
yeah. And it sounded like a more of like a lead by example rather than like
Yeah, yeah,
tri
definitely
tri
was.
trial by fire, iron
Definitely
sharpens
was.
iron. Yeah.
Definitely was. Yeah. Like I think it was pretty obvious to me the guys that kind of had a mentality close to mine, which was like
Mm,
basketball is everything.
mm,
Right. Like, and there were other guys that, did extremely well in school. There were guys that were more popular around campus. There were people that
yeah.
just, but my whole mindset was like, if you see me, I'm on my way to or from the gym. I'll squeeze in some class in between.
Yeah. Did you have a humbling freshman moment?
More in my sophomore year, man. My freshman year, I don't think I had a too crazy of one. I will tell a story of being at UC Davis. I think I've told you this story before, but uh actually I won't tell this story. I didn't have any super humbling experiences. I think I have moments. I will say I have moments where I realize like the competition has gone up a level. I think freshman year we played at USF. I want to say it was freshman year and got cooked. And some of these
Mm,
guys were like, they were just a level above like where I was at the time. I can't remember
right.
the names of some of those guards when that year, but they were just a little bit faster, definitely stronger than I was in my little 18-year-old body frame.
Yeah.
And there were a few nights as a freshman where I realized you're in a different league now. Even in mid-major D1, it was like some
Right,
significant basketball being played.
right. USF
Um,
just made the tournament. Shout out USF.
yeah, big shout out USF. And you see these guys play as a senior in high school. You're like, man, I'm gonna be able to play with them. I'm a rock. But really getting out there is like being 18 in key moments of the game matched up against a 22-year-old. There's a significant difference. You know what I'm saying? Like that is a young grown man versus a kid still.
Yeah,
And so, your talent is gonna have to step up and speak for itself because it ain't gonna be the bravado that wins it every night.
right. And
Yeah,
that's a lot. That's a informative time. Like there's a
right,
lot of reps,
right.
shooting reps, weightlifting reps, in-game reps,
Yeah.
within that 4 years. So
And even just
super
like your three and a
motivating.
half years of collegiate experience
Yeah,
versus someone who just finished playing their last high school game months ago, right?
that's cute. Oh, you got a state championship? That's
Yeah,
cute.
like it's just different, right? It's
Yeah.
different.
How did your freshman year like wrap up? You said you dropped 15 in the opener. The team was pretty good.
Yeah. You're testing my memory, which has never been good. But the main takeaway was it was kind of a building year. We did not finish strongly in the conference. We had battled injury most of the year, and I don't remember it. We lost more than I was accustomed to losing at my
Mm,
career in high school. So it was a rude awakening in that degree. But I also walked out of there. I think I was made the all freshman team. I think that I had shown a lot of promise, and I walked out of there feeling pretty confident that I was going to have a good career at
cool.
SB. Yeah.
And you said your humbling moment came your sophomore year.
Yeah,
How,
sophomore year,
did
man.
you stay down there? You came back. You came back to the house.
I
For
came to the
like.
crib a bit and was working out in the Bay.
Mhm.
We did have to go back down early, so I think I got at least 2 months in the Bay,
It's
and
the
then
quarter system. So you did a quarter
yeah,
up here and then went back down.
right. UCs are on a quarter system, and then the freshman school is actually split. So you get 4 quarters of the school year. You might finish up school at the time I was there, early June, and then have to be back late September. But we
Mhm.
would go back for session B of summer school. They had
Right,
A and
right,
B
right.
session. So we
Same.
would probably get back to summer school, yeah, mid to end of July.
Mhm.
So you're really only getting 2 months at the crib, if I remember correctly. Um, and I was kind of disappointed by that. I felt like I liked being in the Bay and kind of hooping against like Oakland Bay Area guys,
Right.
more than I liked being kind of stuck on campus. It was just our teammates there, but not like these local guys that don't know your game. These other guys to kind of like test yourself against.
Mhm.
And also, we didn't have direct access to the facilities. They were doing, Jordan camp in the summers, UCSB's basketball camps, and some stuff like that. So it wasn't like we just could have the gym all day to ourselves and the weight room all day to ourselves, which to me was the whole point of being down there in the summer. It's like, oh, I'm
Right.
doing extra work. So that was a little bit frustrating.
Okay.
And sophomore year, I felt like it was going to be my big blowout year. I'm about to dominate, and then maybe start having NBA scouts come and look at me and show up at the school year. And that did
Mhm.
not happen. I didn't make a huge jump between my freshman and sophomore year. And during my sophomore year, I started out the season starting. I think I ended up losing my starting spot for a good portion of the season due to just poor play and
Mhm.
not kind of showing out the way I was supposed to. And then I think I ended up getting it back and starting to finish the year. But during that term where I lost my starting spot, there was a game, and I believe it was to that point the first time ever in my career where I finished with 0 points. And I didn't play that much, came off the bench, got pulled early, and had 0 points in a basketball game. And I remember like literally being in tears afterwards, just like, yo, what is happening to me? I'm feeling like I was falling off.
Mhm.
And that was super humbling. That hit me super hard. My parents had drove down for that game, and to put up a bagel in front of my folks to me also was like, gut wrenching. Not that they cared at all. They were just so happy to see me. But for me, it was gut wrenching and just not at all what I was about. And I think for me with basketball, it's always been, if I'm not going to be the best or a champion or a pro or a star, I don't really want anything to do with it. I wasn't there to sit on the bench or to just like idle by through a career and have a
Right.
cool story to tell. I was there to get after it.
Right.
So that hit me super hard. We didn't have a great season. We didn't do anything memorable, and I only played okay. and didn't play great. And that hurt me. And I took that going into that off season
Yeah.
as some supreme motivation.
Before we get into your junior year, what do you like hindsight? What do you attribute to your sophomore slump?
I don't know, man. I think it might be a combination of overconfidence and thinking that it was just gonna like come, like it was just gonna click, and not that I had to go take it.
Hmm.
It might have been that we had some stellar seniors that were like kind of wrapping up their career. I think Joe C was his final year playing college basketball. He went to De La Salle High School in the Bay Area and Oregon State for a year before transferring to UCSB. He and I were battling for the same position, point guard to start. Um, Cecil Brown was, I think, a redshirt senior, so he, obviously he wanted to finish off the year strong. I think that's right. He sat 1 or 2 years that were weird in between there, but we had talented upperclassmen. And
Hmm.
I think, maybe they weren't ready to hand the keys off to the kingdom. They were playing pretty well. My shot was not falling the way that it had been falling in the summer, I think. And I think I was wrestling with how to be a true point guard, but also I was a scorer, right? So even playing point guard in high school, I was much more of just like a slash push Lonzo Ball type, like let's just run and take off.
Hmm.
If somebody by some miracle stays in front of me, I find the open man, which is very different than being like a floor general, setting plays, putting people in position to score, back to the
Right.
basket, back down, like reading the game type of point guard. I hadn't had that experience yet. And I think I was put in that position that sophomore year and struggled with it, to be honest.
Okay.
Yeah.
Appreciate your honesty.
It was a combo, man. It was a combo. I definitely remember being overly confident at the start of the year. And then
Mm.
by the end of it, kind of having my confidence fractured a little bit. I wish I could remember like exact games, but it was a lifetime ago now. I'll have to go back into the archives. But
Right.
I just remember feeling like I was going to average 20 a game and ended up averaging just under 10, I think.
So the fire was lit heading into your junior year, which I think was your best college year.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So what did you do? What did you do differently?
Um, I think that summer going into my junior year, still to this day, might have been the hardest I've ever trained in my entire life.
Mm.
And, a number of things. One, I jumped into the Kezar, the summer pro-am in San Francisco and played with you on the SF pro-am team. What were we? SF City.
Hmm.
And played for Coach Carl, played with a lot of overseas pros, even a couple of NBA guys that came out. But that was towards the end of the summer, kind of after the work. Um, the biggest thing I did was I jumped into the gym. West Campus over in Berkeley, on the edge of West Oakland and Berkeley, has a
Hmm.
rec center with a basketball court that's nothing to write home about, you know what I mean? Beat up. And started working out with a gentleman by the name of Raymond. We call him Rame Young. And he was affiliated with the Oakland Rebels basketball program, which is the AAU team that I played for in high school. And he was just known as an absolute, like, legendary, knock you to the floor, send you crawling out the door basketball trainer, putting guys through workouts. And one of his closest, guys that he worked with, closest kids, is Johnny Bryant, who's one of my best friends in the world and is currently assistant coach of the New York Knicks. And Johnny went on to play at the University of Utah, played at Bishop O'Dowd High School, which was St. Joe's, my high school's rivals. And he played at JUCO ball at San Francisco, SF City. So Johnny was lights out shooter, extremely skilled, always in tip top condition. I was kind of like, man, how does this guy always, in tip top shape like this? And at some point, he and I had a conversation that sophomore year, and he said, come work out with Rame. And that was it, man. I jumped in the gym with Rame. I think the first day I caught a body cramp. I almost threw up twice. It was like pure pain and agony. And at the end of it, I remember Rame just saying, don't be scared to come back. And I think it was a real test. Like when you take those college courses your freshman year and they're just hard for no reason.
Hmm.
And I think the school is trying to really weed out the people that aren't that serious about school before they let you go on into the major. That's how
Right.
I felt about Rame's workouts on day one. he was trying to see who had the heart to really, really work on their game. And if they didn't come back after that first day.
It was on court drill work, skill
Encore
drill.
drill work, yeah,
Okay.
but a little bit of everything, man. So we did
Conditioning, yeah.
on-court work. He had some crazy shooting drills that were just designed to get you very tired, but you couldn't finish the drill until you had a certain amount of makes. So it was
Right.
also mentally fatiguing because if you're missing shots, you're making the drill longer and harder on yourself. And you start getting in your head, you could beat yourself up. So drills like we literally would have to make maybe 20 shots from each position, and there's 7 positions or something like that. And you just know, like, either I'm going to take 45 minutes doing this drill or I'm going to lock in and get it done. It was things like that, man, where, every drill didn't end until there was a certain amount of makes. He had some really strong change position, dribbles, ball handling, and there was not wasted time. There was never like, okay, go towel off, grab water. It was once we started working out, we were working until the workout was over. There were no breaks, no bathroom breaks, no water breaks. The only break you could get was by shooting a couple free throws, just like in a game, right? If you were not subbed out, the break came shooting free throws at the end of a drill. But even then, if you missed the free throws, drill's going right back.
Right.
So you had to learn to hit shots while fatigued. And he had a drill called fourth quarter that everybody dreaded. And I want to say by the time it's done, each person had to make like 150 shots. It was crazy. It was an insane drill that I know you and I have done in off seasons before.
Yeah.
And I've seen people just like quit, man. Like he would just have guys like literally pulling out asthma pumps from their bag and like on the sideline. I'm looking to see if we have to call an ambulance for them.
Yeah.
People just like dying, man. I saw people's eyes, them make the decision in Rame's workout, like basketball's not for me.
Right. You saw the quit.
That level of workout. But he also would take us up to Strawberry Canyon up behind Cal, Berkeley. Cal, if you've ever been to UC Berkeley, it's in the Berkeley Hills. And right behind the campus are some huge, steep hiking trails. So we were down the street at West Campus. He might just, end of the workout, say, everybody get in the car. We drive up to the hill behind Cal and go to the steepest part of the hike and have to run sprints. And you run 10 sprints. I mean, you're absolutely dead. You just did a whole basketball workout. And then he might say, all right, do 5 more backwards. You thought you were done. Mentally, you had clocked out, and now he's got you going back up and backwards. Yeah. You've now been working out for 3 hours straight altogether from court to this position. And you like can barely walk. You get in the car, your legs are shaking. You're a little bit nervous to drive home because you don't want to veer off the road. Just some of the hardest basketball workouts I've ever done in my life. Yeah. And in the gym with some of the best talent that Oakland had to offer. Kenny Deuce Smith was on that famous Oakland Tech team. He was in the gym with us every day. Johnny Bryan, obviously, guys coming in and out. I believe a young Dame Lillard was in there before we knew who he was, several times. So the competition in there too was pretty fierce. Everybody was really trying to bring it. Yeah.
I mean, you recall it with such fond memories, you know what I'm saying? Even just like you have like a physical reaction of like, I remember my legs shaking, like, that's a real thing.
I mean, it was just, I used to love it too, because, I lived in the suburbs of Alameda, right on the border of East Oakland and Alameda. And I used to love any opportunity I had to go up against the hardest players in Oakland, because I feel like I didn't have stripes when I was younger. I had to like earn my respect in Oakland because I was only known in Alameda. So I loved when we worked out, on the block. I loved when OAL's best players were in the gym with me, and I love to go right at them to make sure they knew, I ain't backing down from anybody. Yeah. And Rame has that mentality. Rame trains like a gritty dude. He's talking mess. He's talking trash while you're working out. I remember a day it was like, he was just like, make anybody run if they said anything, right? Like if you hit a 3, you're like, that's right. He'd be like, run, And there was a day, the workout wasn't done. I think we had to do free throws, and in between each free throw, you had to sprint down and sprint back, and then knock down a free throw, sprint back, knock down a free throw, sprint back. And so I remember everybody else was done on the side, cramping. and I was shooting. And Raheem said, "Are you done now? You done talking now?" I said, "I'll never be done talking." He said, "Take off." Came back, hit a shot. I said, "That's right. I ain't gonna miss." He said, "Take off again." And we did that for like an additional 20 minutes after the workout was over. We just
Yeah,
kept going at each other. I said, "I'll make them all day. Take off then." I ran 20 sprints just to prove a point, 50 sprints just to prove a point. And
got
I
to.
loved it because I realized I was like hardening
Hmm.
my mentality, right? Like everybody's done. We're all dead tired. We just want to
Hmm.
go home. And I got to make sure that Rain knows I got more in me, right?
Yeah,
Like I had to make sure like everybody else sitting down already who had taken their shoes off knew I got more in me. And I like that. That was the
yeah.
birth of like the always staying after practice and when everybody else goes home, making sure I put in extra work. Cause I was sending a message to Rain, I'll send a message to everybody in the gym, and I
Hmm.
was sending a message to myself that like no one's gonna kill me,
Yeah,
it was awesome. Those workouts were life changing. And I know we're on this segment a long time, but it was probably a big segment for me. But I was gonna say too, because you asked about it if it was only on the court, but we did the hills, we did the court. We also, I remember one time had to push his truck up the street. He threw his truck in neutral. We had to do lunges and push his truck up the street. I remember him bringing in sandbags and us doing wall sits on the side and him just dropping the sand in our laps. And we would have days like that where he would say, "You don't need a basketball today. Let's go. Get out here,"
yeah,
and
yeah,
just literally doing shuttle runs, cone slides, jumping rope, wall sits, all of that, and didn't even
hmm,
touch a rock. We were on the basketball court for an hour and a half. So he
yeah.
was training us to a level I had never been pushed before.
And it sounds like he got you teed up for junior year.
Yeah, man, he did. So I'll say that was happening all summer. But even after that, this is how I knew I was ready and fired up that year was, we would all do these killer workouts with Rain. I would go home for an hour, like eat something, change clothes real quick, and then I would drive over to Bishop O'Dowd and do another full hour workout with Lou Ritchie,
Yeah,
legendary coach of Bishop O'Dowd, runs a basketball camp, a famous basketball camp in the Oakland area. Um, and I would show up dead tired, stinky from my other workout, like exhausted, almost BS in the workout because I was completely dead. But it was just to prove a point that I knew everybody else was done for the day after they had worked with Rain. I had to do one more. And I
yeah,
would go up and work out at O'Dowd for another hour after I was already dead. And
yeah.
I think everybody at the O'Dowd workouts thought I was garbage because I was coming in there
And
so
they're hella
tired.
fresh, and they're fresh.
I was so tired I could barely like finish a drill or make a shot. I was useless, but it was just a point, being made in my mind. And after doing both of those workouts all summer long, I jumped in the pro-am with you and I felt like I could do anything I wanted out there. I felt like the game had never been so easy because my training was so hard. You know what I'm saying? And I was in tip-top shape. I don't know if you remember me playing that
Nah,
summer.
I do because we were like, we were primed. We were sitting in first place, and then you bounced for the second half, and then we went into playoffs without like, yeah, I think they were gonna give you MVP that year if you had
Mhm.
like played all the way through,
Yeah.
and like, we had, yeah, you were a hog that year for sure.
Man, I felt bad too because I had to go back to summer school
Yeah,
early.
yeah, yeah.
So I missed the playoffs.
Hmm.
But I just remember being like, man, NBA pro would be in the gym or a bunch of overseas cats and they were making money already. I was 20 years old. And
Hmm.
I remember I felt like I could walk by them. I felt
Yeah,
like I could dunk on anybody. I felt like these NBA threes we were shooting were too close. Like I was never tired on the court. Those games were light because I was doing these 4 or 5 hour workouts. And so that was like a switch of a flip. It was like, yo, if you work out that hard, the game's gonna be easy.
easy,
And it
easy.
was, man. When I got back to Santa Barbara, it was easy.
Yeah.
It was child's play, man.
You so you started your year playing again, same combo guard, point guard, two guard.
So junior year, I think that we made the decision like, all right, Al, you're gonna play the two, and we're
Yeah.
gonna let you score, and we're not gonna make you think all day about just creating for others. Like you're just gonna score. I think that started even in the preseason. We just came down and just started doing workouts, and I was just going at people, attacking, scoring. I think we had also signed maybe Justin Joyner and some other true point guards. James Powell was on the court, so it wasn't just on me to create for others. We had guys that were like true point guards.
Mm.
But I remember coming down for the workouts and just like being real hungry and angry. I was not being nice and like, hospitable on the court. That's the best way I could put it. I was playing pretty angry. And I remember one of the first workouts, first time ever in my life, I did a 360 windmill. And I knew I was in tip top shape. I was like, yo, I'm jumping the highest I've ever jumped in my life. So when season started, I think very first game, played shooting guard. It was a preseason game. I want to say we played against Westmont, maybe, which was a D2 that was also in Santa Barbara that we always play every preseason. And then we played another D1. And I'm going to butcher the order of what happened which, but I
Fair.
think first game I had,
10 years ago.
yeah, but those first two games, the first game I had 24 points. The second game I had 36, something like that. It was either that or the other way around, first game. But those first two games, 24 or whatever, and 36. And the 36 was like efficient, just high, super high percentage. I think I was shooting like close to 50% from the three at the start of the year, and we blew them out. And yeah, I just remember like the people reacting to what I was doing. Like the media team was like, this guy's been working on his game. And, like even my teammates were looking for me a little bit more. And coach was maybe calling a play for me a little more often. And we had a very balanced system up until that point. And I think at some point, coach he started to feel it. It was just like when you're in isolation and he called a set and you just cook somebody real fast and get a bucket before he could even like get the play set. I think he was kind of like, oh, I can't really do much with that.
Okay, we could run that one too.
We started doing a lot of just like this guy on me is clearly like, I'm just going to go by him every single time until they call a timeout or they sub him out. And I did, right? And it was just like, we don't need too much strategy for this coach. Like, let's just fry this guy.
We hooping.
Yeah, and I feel like that we did that the first two games, then the next game, then the next game, and then it was like 10 games in, and I scored over 20 all 10 games. We won all 10. I think we only lost one game to North Carolina at Chapel Hill, and won the rest of our first 10 games, and we felt pretty good about ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did that season end?
That season, I think we finished the regular conference either tied for first or in second. Cal Fullerton had Bobby Brown, who went on to play EuroLeague overseas and then played in the NBA.
Yeah.
And they had a bunch of really good players. And I think they finished first, either them and then like UOP was really good these years too. But I thought we tied for first. I can't even remember now. But that year I finished with 21 points a game. I shot over 45% from three. I think I was the number 10 or something scorer in the nation, or tied for it, and the number one scorer in the Big West Conference. And I got robbed for Player of the Year. I feel like I remember that. Like they just didn't give it to me because I was a junior. First team all league though, and I believe we must have finished second, because I would remember if we had won the conference that year. So we must have finished second. And then in the Big West playoffs, we got upset and lost to Irvine. We lost to Irvine, who had a good squad, but we were supposed to manhandle them. But they were the only team all year that beat us twice in the conference. So technically they were our whatever it was.
Just kind of had your number.
Yeah.
Bad matchups.
We beat both number one teams,
and
then they beat us, and we ended up in like a 3-way tie or something for the conference. So yeah.
So you found the success of the off-season workouts heading into your senior year. You're back in the gym with Rame, I'm assuming.
Well, senior year, I actually didn't get to go work out with Rame as much as I did going into junior year, because I was taking classes to make sure that I graduated. And it was like my last year of school, and I had changed majors. So technically I was behind, and I played catch up that summer in my new major.
From what to what?
I switched from economics to communication with a minor in sport management, thinking that I would go either work in a sports front office, excuse
At
me,
some point, yeah.
or do sideline reporting, NBA analysis, right, at some point down the line. So I thought it was perfect combination to major, way more fun than economics. But I switched after my sophomore year, where most people were already getting credits towards their major. I was
Mhm.
starting from the beginning. So that summer, where a lot of seniors are kind of like doing much less and just kind of like getting ready to finish, I had to ramp up. I was taking, a lot of classes and getting myself ready.
So
So
you
I
stayed
did.
in Santa Barbara all summer?
Yeah, yeah. So I had to come back to Santa Barbara a lot earlier than I normally would have, and didn't get to work out as much. But was definitely doing, what Rame's workouts were. I had put those into my workouts, and instead of running the hills in Santa Barbara, we were running the hills of like Hope Ranch, which is a big isolated suburb next to Santa Barbara. And we would just go park the cars at the entrance and run for 8 to 12 miles and just get lost in these woods in this suburb and like literally run around until we got lost and then try to find our way back. And it was, I was in tip top shape and ready for that one as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did senior year play out?
Senior year went well. We won the regular conference. Again, I averaged over 20 a game. So my junior year, I think I averaged a little over 21. My senior year, I averaged 20 and a half, something like that. Again, shot over 40% from three. Um, Broke the school's scoring record in my last game in the NIT. We lost again in the Big West tournament to Irvine. Upset. We were the number one seed. We want to share the conference championship. I earned Big West Player of the Year, first team, all those little accolades. I think I was awarded mid-major All-American. And but that was it, man. Lost with a really bad taste in my mouth, man,
Yeah.
not winning the Big West Conference. And we went to the NIT, and I remember being mad about it. It was a cool experience. We flew private, went to the NIT, played at Ole Miss in Oxford, Mississippi. And we had a guy on our team named Bo Gibb who was from that town. So that was kind of cool. Got to meet his family, hang out in the home he grew up in, and vibe out there. And that game against Mississippi broke UC Santa Barbara's all-time scoring record that was held previously for 16 years. So that was a cool, I guess, minor trophy to walk away with since we couldn't go
Yeah.
dancing. But it was the end of a college career, man. It was a very special time. And I remember being a little bit heartbroken, obviously, but also remember being like ready for what was next. And I had considered just putting my name out in the waters after my junior year because it was such a stellar season. And a lot of what I was hearing was, come back and win a championship and just cement it. And so it was good to win a piece of the regular conference title and just
Right.
be able to hang that on the banner. But
Right.
definitely we're salty we didn't win the conference tournament and get the natural bid. And at that time, Big West was only getting one team into the tourney. So that was kind of it right there, frustratingly.
Yeah. Very fitting, very happening in the start of March Madness.
Yeah,
But I appreciate you taking the time to take us down memory lane.
for sure, man.
Um,
Yeah.
Good
We'll
memories.
get into those next days, and to what
Yeah.
happened right after that, I guess, in one more episode. And
Yeah.
very, very quickly, a lot of people think that you get like this final time to say goodbye at school and wave and do all that, but you turn pro the day that last game ends. You know what I mean? So some exciting things definitely happened that first summer. And then as most people know, I spent majority of my life outside the US and went on to play over a decade professionally overseas. So we'll get into that a little bit more in the final part of this conversation.
Tease them for
Yes,
part
sir.
three.
Yes, sir.
And
Bounce
part
back.
three, we're gonna walk through the combine. Um, hindsight bias, and some reflection, and then
Absolutely.
take a deep dive into your career.
Yeah,
So
man, we'll go super deep, how to pick an agent, what the
yeah,
draft is like, what the workouts are like, and what kind of money you can actually make playing overseas, man.
can't wait. So that's part three. This is part two. That's Av. I'm Sam. We talk a swish. Thanks for joining us.
Peace.